I'm Chris Sneed, and I'm sitting here with the driver for the TCB Sneed4Speed Mini in World Challenge this year is Mr. Johan Schwartz, and he's going to talk a little bit about his driving career, driving go-karts and open wheels and stuff, and then we're going to talk about the race tracks we're going to run, which we're running some really awesome courses this year, and then we're also going to talk about his feeling between the difference between the BMWs that he's driven for me and the new Mini that he's going to drive for me. So Johan, tell me about your driving career.
Well, thank you, Chris. First off, I'm very excited to be driving for you guys this year. I started off my racing in go-karts, then went to open wheel racing, Formula Ford 1600, Formula Ford 2000, mainly in Europe, and then came over to the US where I started racing sports cars, kind of found my niche there, co-driving and endurance races. Had raced Sebring and was fortunate enough to race Grand Am in 2011 and 2012. And now looking forward to racing this World Challenge Mini Sneed4Speed in 2013 at some of these very exciting tracks that we are going to go to. It's a support series for IndyCar, Australian V8, and ALMS. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, being a support series is going to be awesome. I mean, we're going to get to see the V8 cars, the Australian V8 cars in person. I mean, that's going to be, those things are bad. So so you learned a lot driving go-karts. Obviously, they're very responsive and that kind of thing. So how does that respond from all your experience to the Mini Cooper? How do you feel that that's going to make you, how are you going to adapt to that kind of car? I know you've had some experience in the front wheel drive, but what are you expecting out of it? And maybe some little tips for people that track Mini Coopers.
Yeah, having driven mostly rear-wheel drive cars, but then when I went Grand Am racing, that was front-wheel drive cars, and they do require a little bit of different driving style. Where with a rear-wheel drive car, you can go ahead and apply the power a little bit sooner, sometimes even before the apex, and then on track out, as you unwind the wheel, you can obviously progressively come more power. Whereas with the front wheel drive, requires you sometimes to carry more entry speed and brake all the way down to the apex. And not till you get to the apex and you start unwinding the wheel to the exit can you start applying the power. If you start applying it too soon, you're going to push away, understeer away from the apex, and then obviously you run out of radius at the exit and you have to get off the power and you lost all your exit speed. So those are the two main differences between driving the rear-wheel drive cars and the front-wheel drive cars. Now, we're very fortunate we're going to be driving a Mini because it is one of the best front-wheel driving handling cars that are out there. So that is what makes them so much fun. The cars that I've driven for you in the past, the BMWs that you guys have put together and we have raced in the endurance races, has been an absolute blast. I remember when I re-raced the Ford Road Atlanta. I was going into turn one and didn't even have to brake, barely lift a little, and then it was sucked to the ground with that aero package that you guys had developed and put on there, so that was a hoot. I expect the Mini to be just as much fun, and I think that we'll do very well in 2013 and hopefully be in contention for the championship.
Oh yeah, we definitely want to have a shot at the championship, and we won't get to put any downforce on our Mini because rules are very restrictive about that, but we'll get it hooked up. It'll be all right. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the tracks, and usually we race on prepared, dedicated road courses, but this year we've got 2 street circuits, which are awesome for the fans because they're right downtown. Everybody gets to see it. It's super, super exciting. The track is very narrow, the lines of sight aren't very long, and there's just not a lot of room for mistakes, and they're bumpy. So how do you adapt to that as a driver to stay out of trouble and to get to the front?
Well, to stay out of trouble starts off with a good qualifying. So we're pretty good at qualifying. I hope we'll be good in 2013 as well. And going to a street circuit is obviously quite a bit different from a road course. We'll be going to the Circuit of America, which is a road course. It's very forgiving. Some of the apexes you can climb, meaning you can put the right or left side tire up on the apex and also track out without too much of a penalty. Whereas if you start cutting the apexes or running out of room at the exit on a street course, it's not as forgiving. There's a wall. And so you clip the apex too much, you'll rip a fender off, or worst case scenario, you will have your front tire come underneath the car. And obviously if you run out of room at the exit, the other thing is going to happen on the opposite side. One of the things you really have to prepare yourself for on a street circuit is being able to know exactly where to position the car, and also be able to look at, kind of create an imaginary line around the corner when you set the radius for optimal speed. And also, if you are not up front or if you're coming up on lap traffic, to be prepared that if something happens on the other side, to have some good evasive maneuvers there. So a lot of action on a street course. Obviously that is what makes it so exciting for the spectators. We're going to be running in Houston and Toronto with the Indy cars. So, I mean, I know our racing is going to be close, but the beautiful sound of Indy cars is going to be there as well. So it's going to be very exciting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. So we're looking forward to it. Once again, we'll be on NBC Sports this year. And if you can get out to one of the races, we'd love to see you.